My name is Brian, and I work for the North and South Rivers Watershed Association, which I'm sure most of you are probably familiar. Since you're here, you probably have heard about us. But we are, if you're not familiar with the North and South Rivers, we're a local conservation nonprofit whose main goal and mission is to preserve and protect our most valuable natural resource, water. And through educational programs and engagement, just like today, as well as like scientific monitoring and research. We do herring counts, things like that. Our main, we strive for healthy waters for now and for forever. So we've been around since 1970, and so we had our 50th over 2020, which obviously didn't turn out to be the huge bash we were hoping for, but we're definitely excited for another 50 years of protecting our local waters and rivers and waters. You know what I'm saying. All right. And so today I'm going to be talking about rain gardens. Rain gardens, does anyone have a rain garden or anything? Okay, maybe some of us, we're working on one. So I'll do my best to, and I've got some information. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to ask. And so, but this is our watershed area. So of course, a watershed area is an area of land where all the water that enters that area eventually flows to one place. So it's a little bit of a tricky concept. You probably have to think back to around 5th grade is when that's sort of a standard here in Massachusetts education. But most of the watersheds are named after that one place the water eventually flows to. So for example, where we're standing right now, what watershed do you think we are in right now? We're in the North River watershed, because when it rains anywhere in this area, that rainwater will eventually flow into and make its way into the North River. So South River has a watershed, the Eel River has a watershed, Jones River has a watershed, Neponset, there's lots of the Back River, Fore River, the Weir River. Everyone lives in a watershed, and a watershed can be as big as the Continental Divide separates two major watersheds, the Rocky Mountains. The water either flows east or west, or a watershed could be as small as a puddle in your driveway, where the water in a certain area will then flow and pool to. That's like a little mini watershed, and you can name it if you want to. All right. I do a lot of programs for youth, so there's a lot of these corny jokes because they're just looking at me like, okay. Here in our North and South Rivers watershed, we have 3 big issues that the organization is always working towards fixing or managing. And of course, dams, which prevent fish passage, which right now in spring, when pretty soon our local waters will be full, hopefully, of river herring during their spring migration. The dams and culverts and things can prevent a real challenge for them. That's a whole nother topic. Water withdrawals, especially in summertime, where we have lots of lawns. I know I'm here in a garden store, so I have to tread lightly, but lots of lawns where we add lots of water to, and it can lower our water table and thus sometimes drying up our streams when we have out-migrating species or other animals that need that transformation or that transport system of energy and nutrients. We have a lot of dry streams, so water withdrawals is definitely something, and conserving water obviously is big for us, which is where rain gardens comes in, all right? And of course, the big one, stormwater pollution, which we will all talk about in a moment. So there are trends. This is the latest scientific data. I feel like it's always changing. But annual precipitation has been increasing. So this is a study that went obviously for about 100 years. And so right now, this is still relatively current. It's gone kind of back and forth a little bit, but increase in annual precipitation, 3.3 inches or about 8% has risen since in this amount of time. And more intense rain and snow events. So basically what scientists are saying is that we predict drier dries, wetter wets, and hotter hots, and colder colds. So it's not so much a gradual increase in this, that, or the other. It's more dramatic changes. So we're seeing stronger storms. We're seeing more intense rainfall. When we have droughts, they are lasting longer and more intense, and we have drier dries, wetter wets, hotter hots, colder colds. So it's sort of like we're seeing more of these dramatic events, which again is where rain gardens will also come in to help. All right, so what we're seeing is very dramatic changes in weather patterns. All right, so. And of course, we're expected to experience more intense heat as well. So 1 to 2 months over 90 degrees. So it's currently 9 days per year, average 90 plus. They're predicting by 2100. So, tomorrow, intense heat for a lot longer period of time, which is going to stress out our ecosystems dramatically. And so 6 to 24 days over 100. Currently it's 1 day a year over 100. So now we're predicting up to a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks of 100 degrees plus. So, and of course, in Boston, urban heat islands will exacerbate these effects. Here, maybe not so much, but when we have more and more concrete, more and more impervious surfaces, these more intense heat events can become more feelable. So obviously, a changing climate is basically what we're getting at here. And so when we have long periods of drought and then followed by intense rainfall, that rain doesn't go into the soil right away. It starts to do what's called stormwater runoff, which was one of our top 3 issues that the watershed focuses on, all right? And so we're not replenishing our aquifers, more stormwater runoff, which is one of our leading causes of water pollution. So there's some effects that kind of get haywire here. Flooding, droughts, all of this stuff will start to become more intense. All right. And I already talked about water withdrawals. These are just some pictures from here around Scituate, as well as on Third Herringbrook in Norwell, of just the effects of, this is our drinking water reservoir here in Scituate, not too far from here, during one summer where it is like bone dry. You can see some stumps and stuff in there from when they flooded the thing a couple hundred years ago. Okay, when we draw water from our aquifers, it can lower the water table. And so groundwater and surface water are all connected. So if we draw too much from one, it will reduce the other. It's all basically one water droplet on this planet, all right, that we have lots of straws going to that we need. But it can cause some issues. Just ask some farmers in Maine near the Poland Springs water plant, ask them how their aquifers are doing and where their groundwater is going to. Do I see any Poland Spring water bottles here? Okay. Sometimes I do, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just an example. Okay, so single family, 88%, this is Scituate water, this is all online. 88% of our Scituate water is going to single family homes, whereas multifamily, commercial, you'd think commercial would be a big draw, no. And then the town is 1%, so it's the single family homes, and in summertime, it's a huge chunk is lawns, which is too bad because that's grade A drinking water. And so finding alternate sources or planting gardens that don't need that watering. Okay, stormwater runoff. So I'm gonna make this a little interactive. If I could have everyone come up and just meet me right over here at this table. Do you wanna help me move this? Yeah. This is like a nice old drafting table, so I don't wanna just a couple inches. Perfect. All right. I don't know, Mark, is this gonna cause issues with you over there? Okay. Okay.
Do what you gotta do.
All right. Thank you. Okay. This is the town of Scituate, or what town is everyone? Anyone from other towns? Kingston? Very cool. Oh, to Kingston. Okay. Well, this is Jones River watershed. All right. Whichever town you're from, this is it. All right. Got some neighborhoods here, some roads. We got a farm, which, I think there's the Hornster farm, something like that. A factory, school, whatever. All right. Roads, impervious surfaces, impervious surfaces. So, so what are some things that you all see around your town, maybe that don't belong? People putting oil down the, well, we'll jump right to some catastrophes here. Okay, so whatever we're going for pollution here. Whatever we say, we're going to use pepper. No one has a pepper allergy here, right? Okay, I mean, we may sneeze, but okay. So whatever type of pollution you say, this is going to represent. So people putting oil or chemicals in places that they don't belong. Like
salt.
Yeah. Salt, road salt, that's a good one, all right? I mean, we want safe streets to drive on and sidewalks to walk on, but fertilizers and pesticides, we'll sprinkle that all around the neighborhood. That's a big one, all right? That's a big one, fertilizers and pesticides. Obviously, we want, healthy plants, green lawns, things like that, but boy, those chemicals sure add up. Okay, what else?
Industrial areas near drinking water wells.
Industrial areas near drinking water, obviously, we're above the 5th grade level here for some of our pollution, but yes, you're absolutely right. Different commercial, industrial things, water coming out of something or chemicals, you got it. What else?
Farming.
Yeah, we can go farming. We need food. Farms are important, but we are going to put some fertilizers, some pesticides, some manure. I used to have little cows for this model, but the kids took them, so I don't know where they went. But we'll pretend that they're there. All right, what else? Maybe one more. What about in our neighborhoods? We go to a park where we want to have fun. We want to go on a nice walk, and then we step in something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, animal waste.
Yeah, animal waste, especially pet waste. It can be a big one. Okay, so we've got Scituate or Kingston or whatever town you're from. We've got it visibly polluted here. Where does this stuff go? What happens? Does it just stay there?
Goes in catch basins.
Maybe some catch basin. If we're lucky, some of it might get caught. And I think I have a picture of maybe a catch basin trying to work or something. But yeah, so it might go into a catch basin where hopefully maybe some of it gets filtered out. What else? How does it make its way there?
It all goes downhill.
It all goes downhill, which is what a watershed is. The water goes downhill, it goes somewhere. And so what might happen every now and then that will cause this stuff to go downhill?
Flooding.
Rain, you got it. All right, I need some, you guys want to pass these around? Let's get some rain storms happening here. Yep, yeah, all right. If you get tired, you can pass it off to someone else. We may need to uncap one of these storm clouds. And okay, I don't know if you can see. Right there, you can see that all this stuff is making its way into the lowest points, which are usually where our waterways are. That's where our ponds are, that's where our rivers are, our streams, our creeks, our vernal pools right now, the lowest points. And so you can see all that stuff is going to go in. Now, along our roadsides, we have maybe catch basins, we have some storm drains. Usually those go also directly to the water body. They flow and take it to someplace else. Sometimes they go to a retention pond to help filter some of this out. Sometimes they don't. So right here we have the North River, or we've got Wrexham Beach, or we've got a Scituate drinking water reservoir, or any type of water body where we want to swim, we want to recreate, we want to eat seafood from, we want to fish, all that. But a lot of times, most times, our water sources are the collection point of all this stuff in and around our neighborhoods that we don't want. So obviously, if we were here at a school, I would ask them what are ways that we can help prevent this from happening. Obviously, all of you know of ways to prevent this from happening, so we don't have to go there. But we can just see how quickly and how easily it is to understand how our water gets polluted from such a simple process, but yet it's so hard to control, and it's so hard to manage sometimes. So this is where simple little things like rain gardens can come in, where we are preventing a lot of that runoff from our impervious surfaces in our yards, like our roofs or our driveways, where we're taking water that would essentially flow. Now, lawns are considered impervious surfaces. They're so hard packed, they're one species, so their root systems are so intertwined, especially those really healthy, really bright green lawns. If you go out, and it's a fun thing to do with kids, go out with a bucket of water and pour it and just watch it run right off and flow across the surface rather than sink in like we want with our this is supposed to be a forest here, guys. Sink in with our forest, sink into our wetlands, which is why wetlands are so incredibly important. We want to get this soil, or this water, back into the soil, back into the earth, because the earth actually does a pretty good job at kind of managing some of this stuff. Obviously, plastics and chemicals down the drain, that's a whole nother issue. But when it comes to a certain amount of water contamination, the earth can help filter that out. I'm sure we could all go back to when we made the 2-liter filter thing and it poured water in and watched it come out kind of clean. So that's what we want. And so when we have at our houses a way to capture some of that water and return it into the earth, that's a huge plus for not only our yard, not only for pollinator species, because most of our rain garden plant species are native to this area, so they're drought tolerant. They support local pollination species, and we can also return that water to our aquifers, helping with water withdrawals, helping clean that water and get it to where we need it, back in the earth. All right, does anyone have any questions with this? This is called an enviroscape. It's like a...
That is such a good thing.
It is, yeah, it is. And I did this talk last year, and so if anyone was here last year, you're gonna hear basically the same thing. So I was like, how can I spice it up a little bit? So I brought them out. I know it's a little bit more at an elementary level, but it's kind of fun just to see. And so if you have like kids or something like that, or grandkids, you can make a little mini watershed with like tin foil, and then they can circle like the boundaries and predict which way water is going to go, and then you can spray water and watch it pool up, and that's like sort of and you can add pepper to it to show them what a watershed is and how it works and why watersheds are important and how we all live in one.
I can see using that with children.
Yeah.
So well.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's great. It's great. So as well as adults. All right, thanks guys. You can have a seat. I appreciate it. Thanks for our sprayer, our storm clouds. Yes, please. That'd be great. Actually, thank you. This is like a nice old drafting table. It's got the old. Yeah, it's really nice. I'll make sure I get the water off of it. All right. Okay. Yeah. There's that picture right there. Okay, so we talked about this. So, okay, rain gardens. The watershed has built several rain gardens in public places as well as schools. Scituate Middle School being one. Inley here in Scituate, as well as Hanover, the Target. A while back when they did that construction, when you go to Target, you'll notice that island right down the middle has the rain gardens in there to capture the stuff coming from those parking lots, which can produce a lot of stuff. And so why rain gardens? It's very simple, it's fun, it's a fun project, and now's a great time to kind of get interested in it. So help prevent polluted storm water from entering our waterways. We just saw that. Helps replenish our aquifers, I'm pretty sure I already said that. Easy and inexpensive, helps control flooding. So the more water, like I said, we get into the earth rather than running across our roads and streams, or sudden inundation of our waterways. Can be a big deal with a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, the dams and culverts and things that are obstructing some of our streams. When we have sudden and intense flooding, which we predict might become more and more common, some of that old infrastructure it might not be able to withstand some of that sudden inundation. So and become a danger to owners, to people, to wildlife. Obviously, wildlife habitat, our rain gardens are going to be full of native pollination species or native plants that don't require a lot of watering because they are native to this area and are used to our sort of rain and drought schedule, at least for right now. Hopefully they'll continue to adapt, improve water quality, and they can be beautiful and you can kind of make it your own, and it can be a very fun outdoor project for the family. So there's a lot of information about rain gardens online. We have a Greenscapes program, which is part of WaterSmart, which is what we're all here today. It's all part of our WaterSmart program. So at NSRWA.org, we have all this stuff is on there. So you can go to NSRWA.org or just type in North-South Rivers. We'll pop up on Google, and then you'll see a whole gardening green, a whole Greenscapes rain garden section there, which will have all this information. And you can go to other places too, it's all there. You'll see just varying, it's not 100%, you need 2 parts sand, 1 part, these are all sort of guidelines to help. But just the fact that you're interested in maybe trying something like this is actually the best part, all right? And so what we want is a loose substrate to help the water get into the earth, all right? And we can plant all sorts of fun. We got echinacea there. It looks like maybe some Susans. You can really get involved with what species that you have in there. Because this will stay very wet because you got a nice good ground cover. So it will require some watering, like maybe for that first year just to help things get established. But after that, it's gonna be very, very sustainable. And weed control, I'm sure all of you have plenty of knowledge about how to control certain weeds. Obviously, a weed is anything that's unwanted, so maybe there are some weeds that you do want, who knows? So obviously invasive species, we gotta get that stuff out of there. So you pick a location where water tends to pool. So going back to that whole watershed thing, in your yard, look for a spot where you see water pooling during storms. And so you want to be at least 10 feet away from a foundation. Obviously, you don't want that water going directly near a foundation, but rain gardens actually can help, especially if you need some people will use like diverters or things to bring water away from a house, and you can definitely implement that and direct water to where you want it as well. And so again, very, very customizable. So it's hard. This presentation is hard because it's very dependent on what your house, what your situation is. But these are just sort of rough guidelines that you can take and run with. So let's see, obviously, dig safe, all right? Septic tanks, watch out, drain, and like drain fields, leach fields, things like that. So find where it pools, but not in naturally. So if you have any wetlands, you obviously we don't want to get in there and start to manipulate our natural wetlands, because those are actually doing what the rain garden is going to try to replicate. So the wetlands are fine. You don't want to mess with those, and in fact, sometimes it's illegal to. You don't want to do that. If you're unsure, check with your local conservation agent. Or you can go on to Mass Mapper and see where your wetland boundary is on your property. It should all be there. But a rain garden should be 20 to 30% of the drainage area it's treating. So if you have like a driveway that is, 100 feet, I'm doing easy math because that's kind of how I need to do it. 100 feet, then you would probably have 100 square foot. Your rain garden would be between 20 and 30 square feet. So it's basically basically a quarter of the size of the area that you're treating. So for example, your roof, one side of your roof, you can see where the way that your gutters go, the way that your diverters go, and you can sort of, it's kind of a fun project to see and understand when it rains, where that water goes, how much surface area, how much of that water is going to where, and then kind of design your rain garden based off that. So you can have multiple around your house. Maybe you have several little ones, all right? Any shape you want, about 6 inches lower in the center than the edges. We want it to kind of pool in there. And avoid, obviously we don't want to damage any tree roots or anything like that. And you can route a gutter. A lot of people, sometimes I've seen if they want to get under a sidewalk or something, we've seen some pretty wild designs of people. And if you guys do a rain garden, please send us photos. We'd love to share what other people are doing. So I'm going really quick. Does anyone have any questions about any of this stuff? Okay. So you can do a fun little project at home where you dig a little hole about 6 inches, fill it with water. And if there is still water in that hole after 24 hours, you should probably choose a new location. Otherwise, you'd have to do a lot of soil amending and that whole 2 parts top, 1 part sand sort of a thing. You'd have to really do a lot. So because if it doesn't drain it, now that's a long time. I'd be really surprised if any of you have dig a 6-inch hole, pour water in it, and it's still there after 24 hours. That means you're on clay or something like that, or there's an old road underneath you. So that's But if that's the case, then there's we need to find a different location. That obviously, because we want that rain to go right on into the earth. So the ideal soil, 2 parts sand, 1 part top. Is what I meant. And then maybe you want to add some compost. Do any of you have compost at home? Anyone doing compost? Very cool. Fantastic soil. You can definitely use that. So very cool. So around a 2-foot depth is sort of what a lot of times what this mix kind of goes into. So you really kind of got to get in there and till it up. That first part. It's going to be, that first time it's a lot of work getting in there. But then after that, it's really, once you get getting the soil right and getting your mixture and all this is sort of the more difficult, not as fun part, unless you're really into that. But then once you're beyond this, then the plants are going in, then it's off and running, especially after that first year. Plants, variety of native, low maintenance, drought tolerant. Blue stem native, here Kennedy's, they're very knowledgeable. Blue stem native I think it's in Norwell, right? It's on 53. Fantastic organization. They all have all this native, they're incredibly knowledgeable. So if you just say rain garden, they're gonna have the plants for you. So they're a great local place, definitely wanna support them. When we do our school programs, we will build rain gardens at schools or do a native plant program where the kids get to take seedlings home and all that. We get it all from them. So they're great. And so native plants don't need fertilizer and have a well-adapted root system for our local soils here. So even though you will be maybe doing a little soil amending, maybe not, maybe your drains right away and you feel pretty comfortable with your soil that you might not have to make a mix or amend or anything like that. The plants that you're going to be putting in there, the native ones, they're used to this stuff. This is what they've adapted to. So that's why we definitely want to encourage the native ones, because they are going to be the least maintenance for you and they will not require a lot of watering.
I'm curious about why you want to pick drought tolerant plants.
So we want to choose drought tolerant. We say that because a lot of the species that are native here are already drought tolerant. They're used to our climate without rain. So if you plant things that are more drought tolerant, you're less likely to have to rain. You're less likely to go out there and see them looking peaked. And so now that first year probably will take some watering, and maybe you have some plants or you want to plant some other plants that might need a little watering, you know. But the whole idea of the rain garden is to make an area where you're not only not having to water, but actively replenishing our water table with clean drinkable water that flows to the earth. So basically, we're making a little mini wetland where water goes in to the earth from a place where it normally wouldn't, like a roof or a driveway. Yeah, so that's a good question. Don't ask me what good species. I think like online we have a whole list of species that would be more drought tolerant. I'm sure some of you would be much more knowledgeable than me about what specific species.
Could I mention, you guys they recorded the talks from this week, right?
Yes.
So if people haven't listened to those, wasn't one of those listing some of the
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah. I can't. Who was that? Yeah. 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 And I know I can't. Is Russ Cohen doing it today? But yeah,
He's just doing
he's. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. And so yes, they all have been recorded. And last year, I think we had some different ones from last year. It should all be on our website too. Yep. 2 to 3 inches of mulch to help retain that moisture and prevent the weeds. So if you want, I've seen people do it without. But if you definitely want sort of that more manicured look, but it can help retain moisture, especially when, like I said, that first year they will need some love and some maintenance. So water weed mulch, and so for that first 2 to 3 weeks, water every other day. So and it's a little counterintuitive, but once they get started, that's where the water saving really starts to happen. So water every other day for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And you don't have to like step the sprinklers up and stuff. You can spot water, things like that, watering can, on the plants that you see need it. And just help their roots kind of get established and help that soil that you may have just amended, may have just churned, really help that soil settle in around the root systems of the plants that you have in there. Well-established roots will no longer need additional watering. Maintain 2 to 3 inches of mulch. So 1 cubic yard, so if you're going to go in order, like 1 cubic yard is usually good for about 100 feet for a 2 to 3 inch layer. So, and don't worry about mosquitoes. The water isn't going to pool and stay there. It goes right into the earth because of what we've done with the soil, because we did our little water test to make sure that the water goes in and not sit. So, you may see some things flying around there, which is good. We want the pollinator species to be in. We want the butterflies, the moths, things like that, the bees. This is just an example of drainage areas of a house that's, sort of just basically reducing the imperviousness. So making our yard a vector for water to go into the soil and back into the earth. So, and diverting. It looks like they have a little thing going under the driveway maybe, or maybe there's like a little gravel gap. If you go to Pembroke, if you're in Pembroke or you're driving through Oldham Pond, there's a little state or a town beach there. There's a little park there. There's a boat launch, and so boat launch is obviously a thing of concrete that goes right into the pond. The town put in a strip of pervious pavers, so a series of like bricks that you can barely see, right before the water enters the pond. And if you were to, when it rains or if you pour water on the boat launch, you'll see it run down the concrete and then boop, right into this little strip that they have right before the pond. I don't know if that could be something like that, but it's really neat to see a little trick that they did, and you don't even know that it's there. Just a little something to help all that stuff from the boat ramp and that parking lot area, because a lot of times boat ramps will just funnel everything from the parking lot into there, and so it's a neat little trick that they have done. So if you go to other places, maybe take a look and see if, or maybe you want to, do something with your driveway or something like that to help capture that water or divert it to a place that will help it go into the soil. So it's kind of neat. All right, this is just an example. So this one, is this by the Weir River? I've got some photos of ones that have been put in. You don't, I mean, this one has like a nice little rocky area. You don't need, you can get as fancy. Sometimes having a rocky area, if you expect lots of water going in, maybe some rocks to help it kind of get in so there's no like washing. I've seen people put rain gardens in on inclines. That can be difficult because the water is naturally gonna be flowing and we don't want it to like flow and start to wash and erode. And so again, finding low points and things like that. And so, but maybe you need some rocks to help if there's a little bit of a slope. Some rocks to help accelerate the water back into the soil so it doesn't flow and run off in your little garden. Yeah.
I was gonna say, that one looks like it's heaped.
Yeah. It kind of.
But shouldn't it go down, you were saying?
Yeah, it may be hard for, or maybe I see tags on here. Maybe they just put it in and it's a little bit hard to see from the picture, but it does kind of, it does look like it might be sloped a little bit. I'm wondering if they're expecting the water to come from here and that's why they put the rocks there to get it in and underneath, maybe. So, again, very customized, and it looks, I don't know, it almost looks like the road comes through here. So, yeah. This is Hanover Town Hall. You can see the gutter coming right in and just puts it right in the middle, and then it goes in. Yeah. Yep. And this is at the Weir River Center, right on Washington Boulevard, right before you go towards Nantasket there. There's a little one. The building's like right here, right here, and the Weir River is right behind there. So, yeah, you can barely tell. There's some grasses in there too. Looks like some daylilies. So, yeah, it can be real hidden. You don't even know. You don't even know what's going on there. Oh yeah, the Target one. Okay, yep. So right in there. So we use the rocks because there's a lot of water coming in off these parking lots during big rain events. So those rocks kind of help it just get in there. You probably don't need that unless you want to make a nice little rocky garden. But it's just so simple. It will accumulate here in big places like this. It will accumulate lots of litter, lots of trash, but it will then sit on these places or get into these low points so it's easy to pick up rather than all of this flowing into Third Herring Brook, which runs just about 100 yards over here by Target's, right behind Target, so which is where our herring run is. And actually Hanover Norwell water wells for their town water supply are also about 100 yards near here. So yeah, all this is good. It's all good stuff. The Hanover Mall, during their construction, they obviously helped fund to get the dam removed back there where Peterson Pond is. So Third Herring Brook is now free flowing all the way to Jacobs Pond. So it's been cool to see some of these big companies, or the Hanover Mall, to take some of these steps to help during their construction phase, that they're very open to some of these because it really helps them in the long run. Instead of having people have to go and pick up trash and all that, there's places that'll collect. And the salt, salt from here too, will get in and the earth will help filter that out before it gets down to our groundwater. So it's just a win-win. All right, additional things. I know this is probably all just, I'm preaching to the choir here. Obviously we don't want to water during the middle of a hot summer day. Water only when the lawn is thirsty. And so mow with a really sharp blade, so that way it's a nice clean cut. Again, this is if you have lawns. All right. Leave the grass clippings on the lawn. It can really help. Natural fertilizer. It holds moisture. So the credit card test. So keep your grass at least 3 inches tall. The taller grass will help shade the weeds out. Help. And so it also equals less mowing. So just hold the credit card vertical. And if your grass is anywhere below that, you don't really need to mow. Use permeable pavers or porous asphalt, like I was talking about with the boat launch area. Any gardenings like a Home Depot or any of those places will know they'll have what you're looking for. Rake up brush in a pile and leave it for winter. So like right now we have, when we're done with this talk, go back and check out Blake Dinius, the Plymouth County entomologist. He's back there right now. He knows, he'll talk all about pollinator species and things like that, and ways that maybe you can have, maybe don't all go at once. Don't tell him I sent you. But he'll talk all about the pollinators and habitat for the species of pollinators that we want. I'm sure everyone here has eaten food before, so you most likely have eaten something that is a product of pollination. All fruits and vegetables are. And so we want to support that. All right, so mini meadow. Prairie meadow habitats are something that we don't have too much anymore. We have lots of farms, which are important, and we have lots of lawns, not so much. And so areas where there's tall, natural wildflowers, places where we have habitat, prairie habitat, is not something that we have very common anymore. So okay, cool. So creating meadows where you don't have to mow, where you have a lot of native grass, rushes, or sedges, things like that. Rushes, did I say grass, rushes, and sedges? Wildflowers, things like that. It creates a habitat that we don't have too much of. So right now, most of our prairie and meadow habitat are through power line, underneath power line right-of-ways, where we need to clear to keep the understory low underneath the high tension lines, but it actually does create important habitat. And fringe habitat, where a forest meets a prairie, is equally as important, because we have a lot of our bird species, our raptor species, using that area of visibility to hunt for a lot of our rodents and reptiles that are in the prairie. A lot of things like box turtles or snakes. I know snakes can be a little bit taboo, but we need the snakes because the snakes control the mice, and the mice start the lime. All right, so we need the snakes. We need the snakes. They don't start the lime, the mice do, but they're a vector for it. The ticks get on them, then they get onto the deer. It's just, All right. So we need the snakes, and native trees and shrubs, obviously. Now, don't go and cut down your European maple, or don't. Okay. But if you're looking to plant trees or to encourage a tree, maybe you have a little seedling or sapling starting in your yard. Maybe we want to see if that's a native one and encourage that. So this is gonna be a tough one. Don't deadhead at the end of the, like in fall. You can have a winter garden with, the echinacea coneflower is gonna be beautiful and be there all winter long. So you can and grasses too, a lot of the taller grasses can kind of make a really nice, pretty winter garden throughout the season. Yes, it'll probably mostly be brown, but you can kind of get creative and see. And keep it all there, because all that stuff is going to be habitat for insects and things through it. And as well as birds too. A lot of times they'll be looking for places to nest in brambles or in grasses and things like that during the winter when they don't have a lot. So, and compost, I know a lot of you guys compost. All right, clean and plentiful water is just too important to pollute and waste. There's our herring. Pretty soon, the herring will be coming up. They'll be coming up the North River. Definitely, there's lots of places to go check them out, but I do say the Pembroke Herring Run off Route 14, where the water wheel is, the historic Herring Run Park. Fantastic place to see the herring anytime, like late April, mid-April, maybe even sooner this year, because it's been pretty mild, through like late May, sometimes early June. Go check out the herring. They are an amazing species that are migrating.
Say the name again?
The Pembroke Historic Herring Run Park off of Route 14. There's a water wheel there. And the Herring Brook, which is one of two big tributaries of the North River, splits off into many little streams where you can go and stand there in the lawn or in sort of the field area, and the herring are coming up by the thousands. 4 years ago, that run was one of the top 5 in the state. There was like close to 300, maybe a little over 300,000 that had migrated. We've got a herring track. We've got herring counters, which I think some of you know or have done herring accounts before, as well as we have an electric counter up there that when they swim through, it ticks. So Jackson Square in Weymouth is also a really, really good one. It's a very different looking stream scenario. The reason why I'm talking about this is because all this pollution that you guys are going to help do with your rain gardens helps these guys, all right? And these are a keystone species to our local ecosystem. These are the energy and nutrient transition between the marine saltwater ecosystem and our freshwater ecosystem. These guys use our rivers like the vein that connects these two huge ecosystems, the marine and the upland freshwater. So bald eagles, osprey, otters, seals, striped bass. If there's any anglers here and you want to go striper fishing, you want to support these guys because that's what they eat. Our state fish, the cod, I almost said Cape Cod, the Atlantic cod, are all dependent on these guys, as well as all that amazing life out in the ocean. So They have already been seen in Middleborough up to Taunton because that water is usually 10 degrees warmer than on this side of the Cape. But go and check them out. They're really cool. Jackson Square in Weymouth. You look down to them. It's a lot of concrete, but so it makes it easy to see them. They are very well camouflaged as they want to be. So go check out the herring, and then that'll help inspire you to do more good that you're all doing by being here today. We want our local waters to be clean. We want it to be there, clean. We want to recreate, swim. We want to drink water, and we want water for habitat as well. So I think that's my last slide. Yeah, there's the website right there, North-South Rivers Watershed Association. It took me a while to get that nice. So, no, thank you. Thanks for being here. We've got a table set up over there with a lot of information and stuff. Check that out. And there's a lot of other great presenters today. So if you have any questions, feel free to come ask me. But thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you. Have a happy almost spring. We're getting close to our equinox, so equal part day and night. It's right around the corner.